So we'll take a look at a case study. Now, this particular machine I'm going to show you, I want to give you a little background on it. This one's been around for a while. Now, I was living in California at the time, and we had recently completed a machine safeguarding risk assessment on, I'm going to say, probably 200 pieces of equipment. Now, back in those days, what we did is we printed out, there's about 2 pages per machine, okay? So you had a couple hundred machines and 2 pages per machine, so you got like 500 pieces of paper, right? A pretty big report. We deliver the report to this customer. They're headquartered in Pittsburgh. And we deliver the report. And the guy at the facility starts going through the report and just like, wow, there's a lot of information here. Okay, well, let's just randomly pick a few machines so I can get an idea, a feel for what's in this report. He opens up the page and he looks at one particular machine and he says, okay, well, let's dive into this one. Let me see what you found. Okay? And it happened to be this particular machine right here. He just randomly, just random luck, right? And what he found startled him. He's like, hold on. What do you guys say? You're saying that we have to do stuff to this machine? This is one of our better guarded machines in our facility. I don't think you guys know what you're talking about. And before he really gave us a chance to explain, what's a polite way of saying you got kicked out? We got asked, I don't know. There was a conflict in the schedule and we were asked to leave. Let's put it that way, okay? So, all I know is I get a phone call a couple days later from a gentleman at headquarters in Pittsburgh and says, hey, we need to talk because I've got a plant that's saying you guys are ripping people off. And y'all need to come in here and sit down and we're going to discuss this. So, hop on a plane to Pittsburgh. We sit down in the guy's office, and these are the slides that I put together for that particular gentleman for this company. Okay? So, we had a machine, okay? A little press here. It has a light curtain on it. This is the light curtain right here. Okay, that's the light curtain. Here's the mirrors that go across the front. And then so you got a transmitter, mirror, receiver. 3-sided guarding. It's got a light curtain on it. It appears to be in compliance. No one's ever been hurt on that machine that they know of. And they had a compliance officer come through the building. Now, they weren't specifically looking at this press, but they'd already had a compliance officer in the building, which is the reason we were there doing risk assessments on all their machines. But that's part of it. So, like, hey, I'm not sure you guys know what you're talking about. I'm not sure we should pay the bill for this assessment. Okay. So I sit down at corporate, say, okay, well, here's what we found. Okay? Walk me through it. Your light curtains, they're type 2, not type 4. What's the difference? Well, type 4 light curtain is designed for safety applications. Type 2 is not. Okay? Whole different circuitry, no cross-checking, redundancy internal. Okay? One's built for safety, one's not. The light curtains are mounted too close to the point of operation. Well, where do they need to be mounted? Well, that has to be determined by a stop time measurement. So based on the stopping time of the machine, we have to adjust those light curtains back at a safe distance so that if somebody breaches the light curtain, the press can come to a stop before they can reach the hazard zone. Oh, that's required? It sure is. Operators can reach around the light curtain into the point of operation. So let me back up for just a second. Well, actually, you can kind of see it. Okay, but on this side here, you've got a control cabinet. Over here, you can reach between the frame of the machine and the light curtain. Well, who would do that? Remember that one of those early slides I showed you? We train our people not to put their hands into the machine, right? Okay? So you can reach into the point of operation. You can reach right around the light curtain into the point of operation. Well, only an idiot would do that. And we never hire idiots, so we're in good shape, right? Right? Okay. The emergency stop button, it wasn't the proper type. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Well, I'll show you an example. No anti-tie down on the 2-hand controls. So 2-hand controls, hit 2 buttons, that causes the machine to cycle. If I hold one button, or if I hit both of them, and I keep one held down, That machine will just sit there and cycle. Well, that's not good. What if I tie a rope, or what if I ball up a rag and I put a piece of tape around it and I put it on one button and I just turn it into a single push button operation? Okay, so that's not compliant. So we found that. Okay, clutch control valve, reach through the back side of the machine. Now I didn't have photos of every angle of the machine, so this is a different machine here, the green. But you could reach right through the back of the machine. The machine was not anchored. It didn't have a stopping performance monitor. That is unique to mechanical presses, but they do have to have a stopping performance monitor. Non-compliant disconnect. Inside the control. We haven't even touched the controls yet, right? Inside the cabinet. Light curtain tied into a stop circuit on the machine control, not redundant, not monitored, and not control reliable. Well, that's kind of a legacy term that not a lot of people use anymore. Anybody heard that term, control reliable? Yep, okay. So that's a term from the ANSI world, from the OSHA world, and now we're talking about performance levels when it comes to machine controls. But the idea is that machine control is not compliant. So we tied our light curtain into the machine control, and we could have a simple relay failure lead to a complete loss of safety. Okay? So how do we achieve compliance? Well, we had to do a whole bunch of stuff, right? We had to replace the light curtain, fabricate some guards, add some, it's just a whole list. So here's the deal. I told you I had to hop on a plane on short notice, get out to Pittsburgh, sit down in this gentleman's office. I laid all this out for him. These are the slides I used. Laid all this out for him. Jim, you guys know what you're doing. Please continue. I'll have a word with the folks at the plant. You're free to proceed. And we went on and we did a lot of business with that organization. But the point is that they were walking past that machine, and so did the compliance officer, and they never saw anything that made them think that there was a problem, and no one had been injured on the machine. And yet when you dive right into it, you find a lot of different things. Hey, these things are not compliant, and here's why. So it's good to understand the safety. Do we need to go to this extent on every machine? I think so. I do. I think so. I think that's the extent that we need to go through. We need to make sure that every machine. If you're building new equipment, we should absolutely make sure that every new piece of equipment is fully compliant. I like to tell my customers, look, let's draw a line in the sand. And let's say that no new equipment is allowed to enter this building unless it's completely compliant. Now we have this legacy, so everything new will be compliant. And we've got an agreement on that. We'll write that into our purchase order agreements. It has some boilerplate language that says this machine shall be compliant with applicable standards upon arrival. If not, we're not paying the bill, however you want to write it. So you draw a line in the sand and say no more new equipment coming in the door unless it's compliant. And then, what do we do with this existing aging population of equipment? Well, that's where you got to do your risk assessment and determine, all right, let's prioritize. If we have whole body access, if we have amputation potential, if we have fatality potential, maybe that's where we get started. But somehow you got to get a game plan together that says this is how we're going to address that existing population of equipment, and that's going to take us a year, or that's going to take us 5 years, or somewhere in between. But you put an action plan together. All right? Okay.